A caterpillar enters the world with a very simple assignment and one strict rule: no meat under any circumstances. Its job is straightforward: devour leaves, park itself on a plant as if it owns the place, and wait for the internal program that eventually transforms it into a butterfly to kick in. It spends its time as a larva, eating, growing, and storing energy until the moment arrives to seal itself in a chrysalis and re-emerge with wings. Then the cycle starts again. Leaves only. Always. I'm your host, Curtis. At first glance, that rule seems perfectly logical, right? But why would a caterpillar need meat when plants are every doggone where? Food is practically built into the environment. A predator has to search, stalk, and chase. But a caterpillar can simply land on a leaf and start eating immediately. The problem is that rapid growth comes with a price. Larvae expands quickly, and every extra millimeter of body requires protein and nitrogen to build tissue. Leaves provide plenty of bulk, but they often are poor in the raw materials needed for fast development. A caterpillar can eat constantly and still assemble new body mass at a frustratingly slow pace. That nutritional imbalance creates a powerful temptation. Getting protein directly is far more efficient than extracting it from endless piles of low-quality plant matter. If a caterpillar can access concentrated nutrients, already assembled and ready to use, it can accelerate its growth dramatically. For some species, that temptation turns into behavior. Predation begins to appear. Not everywhere and not in every lineage, but often enough to raise eyebrows. And interestingly, this shift shows up disproportionately on islands, which leads to two intriguing questions. Why do dietary changes happen more often on islands? And once a caterpillar turns to meat, what does it ultimately become? Islands are ecological systems with clear boundaries. They support fewer species, their food webs are shorter, and resources can fluctuate dramatically. A caterpillar that depends on a specific plant might thrive one season and starve the next if that plant suffers a bad year. On the mainland, there are often backup options like another plant, another patch of habitat. But on an island, alternatives are limited. At the same time, small insects can erupt in sudden population bursts, clustering around the same few plants caterpillars already inhabit. In that environment, prey may be concentrated and easy to locate, even if it appears unpredictably. This dynamic is exactly why places like Hawaii have produced some of the strangest caterpillars scientists have ever documented. Entire groups have shifted from occasional opportunistic predation to a regular carnivorous lifestyle, which is pretty crazy, isn't it? That raises another obvious problem. How does a caterpillar hunt anything at all? I mean, the thing ain't fast, it doesn't carry obvious weapons, and it hardly resembles a predator. A caterpillar is essentially a soft tube with legs. So how does a creature built like that manage to become a meat eater? Well, the answer is simple. If you can't chase prey, you let prey come to you. Most carnivorous caterpillars rely on ambush rather than pursuit. They remain completely motionless on a leaf edge or along a twig and wait. The moment another insect brushes against them, the attack happens instantly. It's not the strategy of a sprinter, it's the strategy of a trap. The caterpillar conserves energy, moves only when the opportunity is perfect, and then returns to stillness as if nothing happened. In a strange way, it's the same logic used by large predators like leopards. The goal is efficiency. Don't waste energy roaming around when dinner might simply just wander past you. Yet the original question remains: if leaves are everywhere, why bother evolving such elaborate tactics? The answer lies in the quality of those leaves. Many plants are tough, chemically defended, or simply nutritionally poor. They are edible in theory, but inefficient as fuel for rapid growth. If a caterpillar needs to gain mass quickly, it benefits enormously from nutrients that are already concentrated and easy to digest. That's why many meat-eating caterpillars do not target large prey. Instead, they go after the low-risk options like aphids, scale insects, and mealybugs. These tiny sap-feeding bugs are, they cluster together, right, in large colonies, and they barely defend themselves. A caterpillar feeding on them gains animal protein without needing to fight or chase. It remains near plants while consuming prey that has already converted plant sap into richer animal tissue. In other words, the caterpillar isn't turning into a fierce hunter, it's exploiting a convenient shortcut in the food chain. Naturally, this leads to another question. If caterpillars can evolve to eat meat, why don't they continue down that path and eventually become full predatory insects? Why aren't there butterflies that behave like miniature hawks? The answer lies in the purpose of the caterpillar stage itself. Larvae exist primarily to convert food into body mass as efficiently as possible. Hunting constantly, roaming long distances, and engaging in fights would burn enormous amounts of energy. In this context, meat is not a career change, it's simply a nutritional upgrade, a side strategy that helps the larva grow quickly without abandoning its basic mission. See, that's why carnivorous caterpillars often stay in places where prey is reliably concentrated. Instead of patrolling territory like predators, they position themselves near insect colonies or areas where prey regularly appears. Some even resort to cannibalism if the opportunity arises. These behaviors are less about aggression and more about efficiency. But this raises another puzzle. How does a caterpillar recognize prey at all? Like, if its eyesight is so poor and it lacks the sensory equipment of true predators? Well, vision in most cases is not the primary tool. Instead, touch and vibration dominate. When an insect bumps into a caterpillar or disturbs the surface it's resting on, that contact becomes the trigger. Many ambush caterpillars respond almost reflexively. Something alive touched them, so they grab it. This simple system reduces the need for complex sensory processing and allows the larva to conserve energy while remaining ready to strike. Then the story becomes even stranger. Some carnivorous caterpillars feed in areas dominated by ants. At first glance, this sounds like an incredibly bad idea. I mean, ants are aggressive, territorial, and quick to attack anything that threatens their resources. Yet caterpillars often end up near them because ants farm aphids and similar insects for their sugary secretions. Where aphids gather, ants gather too. So the caterpillar's prey source naturally places it in the ant's territory. For most caterpillars, this situation would be dangerous, but some specialized species turn it into an advantage. Ant colonies aggressively defend the insects they farm, which means predators and parasites often avoid those areas. A caterpillar living nearby can benefit from this defensive bubble, even though the ants themselves are potentially hostile. The result is a strange arrangement where proximity to ants can actually increase the caterpillar's chances of survival. Now, of course, ants don't tolerate freeloaders easily. Like, for a caterpillar to survive in their territory, it must either avoid detection or chemically persuade the ants to tolerate its presence. Some species achieve this through specialized glands that release substances ants interpret as harmless or even rewarding. These secretions can calm down ant aggression or provide tiny food incentives. It isn't really like cooperation in any friendly sense. It's more like a negotiated truce. Once you realize that caterpillars can manipulate ant colonies, another possibility emerges. Could they exploit other traps in nature, such as spider webs? Surprisingly, the answer is yes. In Hawaii, scientists have discovered predatory caterpillars that live inside spider webs concealed within silken shelters. These larvae steal insects that become trapped in the web's threads. To avoid being attacked by the spider itself, they disguise their shelters with bits of insect debris so they resemble harmless scraps caught in the web. It's camouflage built from leftovers. Cases like these reveal how flexible caterpillars can be, and sometimes carnivory becomes more than an occasional tactic. In North America, the butterfly, often called the harvester, has larvae that feed entirely on aphids and related insects. Leaves play no role in their diet at all. Once a species evolves like this level of specialization, its survival depends on the presence of prey colonies rather than on specific plants. So where did this shift towards meat begin? One likely starting point is cannibalism. Caterpillars frequently share plants, and when resources are limited, larger larvae may consume smaller ones. This provides a dense source of protein without requiring complex hunting skills. Over evolutionary time, such behavior can expand into feeding on other soft-bodied insects nearby. Cannibalism, in effect, becomes the stepping stone towards carnivory. Yet another mystery appears when certain caterpillars seem to delay or even skip metamorphosis. If the larva stage stretches on indefinitely, it can appear as the transformation into a butterfly has stopped altogether. In many cases, the real cause is parasites. Parasitic wasps lay eggs inside caterpillars, and the developing wasp larvae benefit if the host continuously feeds rather than transforming into a pupa. To ensure this, the parasite interferes with the caterpillar's hormonal system and delays the onset of metamorphosis. Metamorphosis is controlled by chemical signals, particularly hormones like ecdysone. If those signals are disrupted or suppressed, the caterpillar simply lives as a larva, eating, growing, and unknowingly serving as an incubator for its parasite. The transformation does not occur until the parasite has finished developing, if it occurs at all. What looks like a biological malfunction is actually an example of an organism manipulating another for its own survival. But parasites are not the only reason metamorphosis can be reduced, right? Or can appear reduced. In some insect lineages, the adult stage itself has become simplified. Females in certain groups remain larva-like even though they are technically adults capable of reproduction. These larva-form females invest less energy in wings and mobility and more energy in producing eggs. Meanwhile, males retain the typical wing form needed to locate mates. This arrangement shifts the center of life towards the larval stage. Feeding and resource accumulation become the most important phases of the life cycle, while adulthood becomes brief and specialized. When that happens, changes in larval diet, such as switching to animal prey, they kind of take on in greater importance because the larva determines the reproductive success of the entire species. Still, such strategies come with trade-offs. A species that relies heavily on local prey colonies or reduces its ability to disperse becomes more vulnerable to environmental change. Adult butterflies normally provide mobility, allowing populations to escape disasters and colonize new habitats. If that mobility is reduced, efficiency increases in the short term, but resiliency declines in the long term. That balance explains why carnivorous caterpillars remain relatively rare. Their lifestyle works well in stable habitats where prey is predictable, but it can become risky when conditions fluctuate. Insects that rely on aphid colonies, for example, depend indirectly on the plants those aphids feed on and on the microclimates that sustain them. If the entire small ecosystem collapses, the caterpillar loses its food source. In the end, meat-eating caterpillars are not evolutionary mistakes. They are specialized solutions to particular ecological problems. Sometimes they exploit insect colonies, sometimes they manipulate ants, and sometimes parasites manipulate them in return. Metamorphosis itself remains intact, but the path leading to it can bend in surprising ways. Rather than signaling the disappearance of butterflies, these strange larvae reveal just how flexible insect life cycles can be. The caterpillar stage may occasionally take on unexpected roles: hunter, parasite host, or chemical negotiator, but the underlying transformation still exists. Metamorphosis isn't a fragile switch that can easily break. It's a complex system that evolution can tweak, delay, or redirect depending on the pressures of the environment. And the more closely we examine these strange caterpillars, the more they reveal about how adaptable those rules really are. I'm Curtis. See you next time.